Okay, this is the. If I can get it to. Hold on. This is the July the 14th, 2016 episode of the Isaac David Brigmond Show. On the Isaac David Brigmond Show today, we're going to talk about things that are out there that if you don't look it up yourself once you get the info, you'll never know about it. Like the 1st Earth Battalion. That was something that the military kind of frowned on because they didn't want people to know about the info, and so basically they didn't want you to know anything about it. But once you look them up on YouTube, you'll find that the man that started the whole thing is a pretty helpful guy. He'll talk to you. You know how people talk to you on videos? They're not talking to you directly. They're talking to you and everybody else watching the videos. Well, he talks to you in a helpful way, and he puts it out there in such a way to where you really get into it. And if you don't know about that stuff, look up the history of it because it's an interesting thing. And watch the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. That tells Hollywood's version of the story, but it's similar to what it really is. But anyway, the point is, military has always been the people that if there was another way to fight the war, you wouldn't hear about it or see it. You wouldn't hear about it or see it because the military don't want you to know about stuff that could put themselves in a better way of doing things. People have, from the day the world has begun, wanted to kill, kill, kill. And if you can't kill, then it don't look right to them. And I say it like this because, as long as I've always known it, there was always this need for man to kill in some form. If it was a Christian, he killed for food. If it was a criminal, he killed for murder. And that's how it was. But see, the military decides that to protect the United States or to protect Canada, Russia, whatever military it is, they decide that they want to protect all that by basically kill, kill, kill. And you can't do that all the time. You have to learn to be civil. You have to learn to find a way that is peaceful to get a thing solved. Because God didn't fight with guns. God didn't fight with bazookas, bombs. He fought with peace. He fought with a form of peace that only could come from God and Jesus. And they said that if you actually tapped into their powers the way they ask you to do such, you could cause peace to come through the same peace that they gave you. You have to give peace to get peace. Like, you have to give a peaceful attitude to get a peaceful situation. Well, in order to do all that, you have to be able to know how to tap into the peaceful attitude that God and Jesus gave us when they tried to solve problems with us, for us, and about us through wars. Because God and Jesus, yes, they fought in wars, but they fought with peace. They fought with the weapon of peace, and they tried hard to get us to do the same thing. But we don't feel like it because human beings want to kill so much. And that's why when things were going up, like they called it in one story the New Age Army, or they called it in another story the New Earth Army, or they called it in another story the First Earth Army. And then they also called it the First Earth Battalion. They called it the First Earth Battalion, or the New Earth Battalion. It was different names for it, but the original name was actually the First Earth Battalion, and they were trying to show how to solve problems through peace and harmony. And see, we don't want to deal with that kind of subject because we believe that to fight a problem, you must fight with guns ablazing, and you could fight with peace, but you have to learn where you draw the line on that subject. And see, I've seen many men and women die and come back from all this dying because they were sitting there doing stuff like, I think I'm going to war. Okay, so then you go to war, then you come back in a body bag because the enemy blowed you up. Now, that could have been avoided if we'd have found out what was God's way to fight this war. What was God's alternative? God was the commander in chief. God was the commander, the sergeant, the general, the colonel. And you get to thinking about it. If God runs everything, then how come we don't see God as God? We see God as something else. I mean, I've seen God how many times in this world where we sat there and told God we didn't need God, but yet we did, because God gave us the weapon of peace to fight with. He said, fight with this weapon and you'll see a lot of results. If you fight with the weapon of peace in the name of God, then you'll be in God's army and you'll be able to fight the problem peacefully with a solution of peace. But see, we don't want to do that because we're too scared. If we have to fight with peace, we get our heads blown off, when knowing most of the time we won't, because we fought the way God said, because Satan can't hurt us if we have God around us like a hedge of protection. So that means that if God says go to war and use peace as your weapon, go to war, use peace as your weapon, and fight the good fight. And, I think that, they may call you Christian hippies for doing that, but if you're a Christian hippie, it means you're a laid back man that tries to let peace rule your world, but you let your boss be God and you meditate the way God tells you to meditate. A Christian hippie, to my point of view, my definition of that is a guy who is laid back, he meditates, he prays, he believes in God, he believes in the Bible, he believes in church, he believes in gospel music, but he also believes in meditation music or Zen music. And he believes in, maybe rock music, but not as much about that as it is, he could just not even like rock music, but that's his decision. He could like any music he wanted as long as he knows not to use foul language. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. He partakes of cleanly things like healthy drinks, maybe coffee, maybe and maybe juices and teas and sodas, but doesn't, and then also water and things like that, to that extent. And I say it like that because, see, I've put myself where, I know I don't always live the life I ought to live, and I shouldn't talk about what I don't know much about, but I'm trying hard every day to get my mind to where I can understand new things about this world. Like, I pray, and I have a prayer ceremony I do, and I approve of it because I believe that prayer helps you cleanse your day. I've had miracles happen in my life through prayer because I knew that if I was to do what God told me to do about my problems, I'd see a better way of life. But see, a lot of folks don't want to see that better way of life. They want to see crime and chaos all over the world instead of trying to stand up and say, I believe in you, God, and I believe you're the only one for me, and that you gave us Jesus for our sins. And if you don't go through that ritual, as in to make yourself believe it and to actually really believe it, not just make yourself believe it, but really stand for it, you don't get nowhere. And I've seen folks cry and lie and die for things that they didn't have to. All they had to do was just say, I'm going to give up stuff and be basically like a Christian hippie and stand up for what's right in life, stand up for the good things in life, and try to fight the good fight through peace and go for it, But we don't want to do that because we don't kill anymore. We don't kill anymore. We don't steal anymore. So pretty much if you don't kill and steal anymore, you're pretty much telling the world that you don't want to fight nothing. I love you people, and I understand that a lot of you people have decided that we need to just throw out the logic that God gave us, or as I like to say, religious logic. Religious logic or godly logic, it's the same thing, but it has two names. Well, my definition of that is a logic that the only way to get it is through God, and we've decided to throw that out and to put a form of logic that says that if you are a citizen of the world and you break a law, you go to jail. Unless you are a politician or a actor, then only maybe you may go to jail and you may not. But if you're a regular person, surely you will go to jail for a crime you committed. Like if I commit a crime today I go to jail. If I committed a crime tomorrow, I go to jail. But let me be famous, I might or might not go to jail. But if I'm a politician, I won't go to jail. Now that kind of logic has went out the room long time ago. And we don't want to bring back the way it used to be. You broke a law, you broke a law. And see, people don't want to face those facts. They think that by saying, if you broke a law, then if you're famous, you get away with it. No. And I'm saying that we should stand up and say, number one, we should say that we're standing up for the big man and the little man. They both have a right in this world, and they both need to be treated as though you break a law, you go to jail. You don't break a law and you cause another person to go to jail for a crime they committed, then you have basically done a citizen's arrest and you should be given a thank you for it. But don't sit there and act like, you're wrong because anything particular. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. And all crime to me, should be, arrestable. You should get arrested for any crime you commit. But if you don't commit a crime, then you should be able to go free. But people think that crime should be for jail time for those who are normal people. In other words, if you're a guy like me, you go to jail for a crime you committed. If you're not and you're famous, most likely you won't go to jail. That kind of hurt my feelings because I was always into this thing about crime is something that you need to go to jail for. Also, I don't understand why we believe that if a Christian tries to become the president of the United States or any country, or king or prime minister or whatever, that basically you don't need a Christian being in politics. That's what